All right, guys, so we're lighting a scene today using these lights from Zhiyun. These are two Molus G200s, and right here we have a Molus X100. And these lights are extremely useful because we can just use these really tiny stands to hold each one and get a ton of output. So we're gonna be lighting it from the outside, bouncing light to see the scene that you're looking at right now. So follow us as we figure this thing out. My name's Anthony, welcome to my YouTube channel, and I can't wait to help you along on this review of these lights to see if they are the right purchase for you. So before we get into the preview of the short film that we were able to create with only using these Zhiyun lights, I wanted to let you guys know on how this video was going to play out. Obviously there's timestamps below, but just in case, I wanted to give you an overview. So at first you're going to see shots only using lights just so you can get an idea of what you can create if you were to purchase any of these lights. And then after, I'm gonna go into my personal opinion on using these lights and if I would personally spend my money on them. Zhiyun did send me these lights and they are sponsoring this video, but I made sure that on the contract, it said that I can share whatever opinions that I had, whether they were good or bad, because if I wasn't able to do that, then it doesn't make sense for me to make a review, because I just wouldn't be able to have integrity with that. So yeah, this short film is super important to me. It's about creating content and it's gonna be released in a couple of weeks. So if you're interested in seeing the full video, make sure you subscribe so you can stay updated when I actually release it. So without further ado, enjoy the preview. Content creator. Some may look at that title as a joke. Some see it as an opportunity to become their own boss. I mean, that's how I saw it. So these lights are actually incredibly useful. If you're watching this video, you've probably seen a bunch of reviews on them already. But the main thing people say about them is that they are different. They're extremely small. There's something that hasn't really been invented prior, and they're actually really powerful for their size. I actually reached out to Zhiyun when the G200 was gonna be announced, and they were gonna send me some lights to review. And unfortunately, they didn't get to me in time for a travel shoot that I had. And when I tell you it would have been perfect for this shoot and saved me a ton of time and hassle, I really mean it, because I was literally lugging around a suitcase that fit my tripod and this flex mat light that I usually travel with that's super compact. And if these lights would have gotten to me on time, I would have been able to bring two 200-watt lights that can be extended up to 300-watt lights in half the amount of storage that it took to bring that one light mat. And that's actually crazy that I have more power with this tiny cube than this big flex mat whatever light. This used to be my favorite light for travel, and now this absolutely takes its place. I know it may seem like I'm singing these lights praises, and that's because I was excited about them before Zhiyun even sent me them. I was gonna buy them with my own money. They truly would have saved me a ton of time and effort on this last shoot. I wish they would have gotten to me. And as I was on the shoot, I got the notification that they were delivered to my house, and I was like, oh my gosh, that would have helped so much. So it is what it is, but that just goes to show that these lights do fill a gap in the market that, in my opinion, was necessary to fill. So now I want to compare these two lights, and it's not going to necessarily be a huge comparison on like specs and wattage and lumens and all of that. I just want to share my personal opinions on actually owning the two. Oddly enough, I prefer the X100 more than the G200, and it has a good bit less power, and that's because I can power it off of a battery bank. This X100 right behind me is being powered off a battery bank and just a USB-C cable, which is extremely useful because I bring battery banks when I travel anyways, and now I have one dedicated to the X100, I almost said X100V, but to the X100 that can work as a laptop charger and can charge the light. So it's super useful. And it's just much more compact, and that's probably why I'll pick that one up over the G200. But this one definitely has a place in my kit. It's actually a good bit more powerful. It's not just a 200 watt light. It can be pushed for a certain amount of time to 300 watts if you did need that extra juice. So it does serve its purpose on certain sets and different shoots. The only caveat is that it can't be powered off of V-mount batteries or USB-C power like the X100, which, as I've already stated, is super useful for travel. But with the extra power and the fact that I bring power strips anyways and plug it into mains power often, means I'll be bringing this on a lot of shoots regardless if I can power it via a battery or simply AC power. So as you can see from the clips that we got for the short film, these lights are really capable. They can be used on professional sets. The G200 in particular has a really strong metal yoke. I personally wasn't expecting this because the X100 had a, unfortunately, flimsy plastic yoke, but the G200 has a strong metal yoke that seems like it's more suited for heavier, more rough use. The overall build is pretty intense. Like, it's plastic on the outside, but everything on the inside is metal and is very strong and sturdy. So I wouldn't be too concerned if I did drop this light. Just kidding. I'm not dropping this light. Also, this entire lighting setup, minus a couple little accent lights, were shot using these Zhiyun lights. So they for sure can be used in a studio setup. I would go as far to say as these are perfect lights for a studio setup. I'm actually purchasing an impact Varipole really soon, and I'm gonna mount a couple of these lights to the Varipole permanently because they're super lightweight and I don't even have to think about them falling because they just don't weigh anything. Those are my opinions on the good side of these lights, and now to talk about the negatives, because there are a couple negatives that I wish didn't exist that I think you guys should know about. Starting with the X100. The light behind me is actually an X100, so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. At low output levels like 1%, 2%, 3%, the color temperature shifts dramatically. Like, it's really not that accurate. I'll show you what I mean. So right now it's at 1% at 2700 Kelvin. Now it's at 1% at 2800 Kelvin. And I don't know if you can see the difference, but that is extremely wild, and that is definitely not a 100 Kelvin shift. 2700, 2800. And now here's the kicker. This is 3300 Kelvin at 1%. So it's a little odd, and I'm sure Zhiyun can fix this in a firmware because it's not necessarily a light malfunction as much as it is a firmware malfunction. When I do increase the brightness though, that issue seems to go away and the color temperature seems to be a good bit more accurate. Another con is that with the G200, it is compact, but the power brick is as big as the head, and then it makes it almost the size of an Amaran 200D, but not really. It's still smaller. I just wish they would have made it into one head. That probably would have been a whole different design, but for me personally, I do want it as compact as possible, or at least if this could take a battery, that would be worth it to me. But for me, that's not a deal breaker because they can still be used, and then this part is still light. And these are more design things. They're not necessarily flaws. They're just things I wish were different. But I wish this mount had a quick release. The reason being is because now the footprint of this light is this big instead of this big when I put it in a camera bag. You actually can take off the mount, but you need to get under here and get some Allen keys and do this whole thing, and I'll probably still do it when I'm traveling, but that does take up a good bit of time. I wish it was quick release and super sturdy, which I don't know if that really exists, but that was kind of a quirk to me. All right, and this is the last con, and I'm sure this is a firmware thing, and if it is, Zhiyun, please fix this as soon as possible. I was having some serious issues connecting my G200. I don't know if it's just my unit. I tried both of the units that they sent out to me, and the same thing was happening with the app, but I was having some issues, and this was during a shoot, so it was really frustrating for me personally because I don't want these issues while I'm on set, while I'm trying to be creative, or while people are looking to me for answers. I don't want to have these issues. The app overall is decent, but it could use a serious update. Zhiyun, if you make the app flawless, more like some competitors that start with an A or an N, that would actually be a game changer because it would make it way more seamless on set. Just wanted to mention it because it was a little frustrating for me. But I'm sure Zhiyun will respond in the comments or anything like that. And that is all for the nitpicking. Some were more heavy than others, but overall, I would 100% purchase these lights myself personally, even knowing these cons after they were given to me. The pros far outweigh the cons for me, and that's because of portability, price, the actual output that you get out of these lights despite them being so small, and the quality of light, as you can see from this talking head, is really good. I'm super impressed with Zhiyun. I think they can really make a dent in this market. I'm not only going to use their lights, I use Nanlite lights as well, but I think that Zhiyun lights are very promising and you guys really should take a look into their lights. With that being said, links to everything that I use in this video will be down in the description. It does help the channel if you use those links because I do get a kickback. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me if you do or not. You could just go straight to Amazon. But if this video was helpful for you, consider subscribing, like it, comment down below your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.